30-minute meals started, I was working in a market and none of my customers would buy the groceries. I was the grocery buyer for the store. I couldn't get anybody to buy the groceries, so I looked like I really sucked at my job. So I started a 30-minute meal cooking class to train people to will make me more successful at my job.
She built an empire on 30-minute meals, quirky catchphrases, and kitchen charm. But lately, Rachael Ray's name doesn't just spark nostalgia, it raises eyebrows. From strange on-air moments that had fans worried, to her sudden exit from daytime TV, and a quiet, noticeable shift to behind-the-scenes roles, Rachael's journey hasn't just been about fading fame, it's been shadowed by controversy. Was it burnout, health struggles, or something deeper that sparked the change? And why did her refusal to explain only fuel the fire? As once loyal fans whisper and critics speculate, this fall from grace didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, silent unraveling that no one saw coming. Scars you can't see on camera. Before Rachael Ray ever smiled into a camera or tossed olive oil into a sizzling pan, life had already hit her hard, and more than once. The woman we know today for her warmth, her raspy voice, and her no-nonsense charm wasn't shaped in a studio kitchen. She was forged in illness, fear, and moments most people never fully recover from. Let's start with her voice, that scratchy, unmistakable rasp that made her instantly recognizable. It wasn't a stylistic choice. It was the lasting imprint of croup, an aggressive viral condition she battled repeatedly as a child. Each time, it inflamed her throat and vocal cords, gradually transforming her natural voice into something entirely different. Even when the illness was long gone, its mark remained. The rasp, the vulnerability, the occasional loss of voice during tapings and events, these became permanent companions on her journey. By the time she reached national fame, Rachael had learned to cope with the reality that her voice could betray her at any moment, but she never tried to fix it to sound more polished. Instead, she embraced it. That voice, weathered but strong, became part of the brand, genuine, imperfect, and impossible to fake. Still, it came at a price. In the year 2008, Rachael underwent throat surgery to remove a benign cyst from her vocal cords. The operation wasn't life-threatening, but it was a sobering reminder that her relentless pace, talk shows, food segments, interviews, cookbook recordings, was wearing her down. She could have slowed things down. She didn't. Instead, she found a voice coach, rebuilt her vocal strength, and kept going. Because that's what Rachael does. She keeps going. And while most people know about her culinary career, fewer know about what happened back in the year 1997, when she was just trying to survive in New York City. Living in Woodside, Queens at the time, Rachael was attacked not once but twice in the same horrifying week. The first time, a man pressed a gun into her back. The second, she was dragged into an alley and violently assaulted. She later called it a breaking point. Her body had been hurt, but her sense of safety was shattered. The city, which had once felt like a land of opportunity, now felt like a cage. So, she did something most people wouldn't dare. She left. She escaped the city and returned to upstate New York, needing to breathe, needing to heal. That decision, made from a place of raw pain, turned out to be the beginning of everything. Back in the quiet, away from chaos and concrete, Rachael reignited the spark she'd always had for food. She went back to basics, teaching cooking classes, speaking to small crowds. She poured her energy into helping people find joy in the kitchen, even when life was messy. Especially when life was messy. So when people say Rachael Ray is real, they're not just talking about how she talks or how she cooks. They're talking about the fact that she's carried trauma on her back and still showed up. She never tried to airbrush her pain. She let it live alongside her success. And that's rare. It's why even when she's brusque or blunt or a little too quick with the sarcasm, her fans stick by her because they know the place that delivery comes from. It's the voice of someone who has no time for pretense, of someone who clawed her way up from rock bottom and never once pretended it was easy. Rachael didn't choose a public persona that fit the mold. She was the mold, loud, real, imperfect, and unapologetic. That's what made her different. That's what made people trust her. and for a time, it looked like nothing could stop her. She had a hit daytime show, best-selling cookbooks, her own magazine, product lines flying off the shelves. She became the kind of name you could build an empire on. But fame is tricky. It lifts you fast and turns the spotlight into a magnifying glass. And for Rachael Ray, that spotlight would eventually shine on more than just her recipes. Legal battles, public accusations, and whispers about her private life would begin to surface. And that's where the story takes a darker turn. Because what came next wasn't just career drama, it was the kind of unraveling that even Rachael couldn't cook her way out of. She's not a real chef. Before the tabloids and Twitter fingers had anything to say, this was the first blow that stung Rachael Ray the hardest. She's not a real chef. When people talk about big names in the food world, they usually bring up culinary heavyweights. Julia Child, with her Paris training at Le Cordon Bleu. Gordon Ramsay, who sharpened his skills under Michelin star legends. Or Bobby Flay, who came out of the French Culinary Institute with fire in his veins. Rachael, she didn't come from that world. No white coat, no fancy food school, no five-star kitchen hustle. Her journey started a little differently, teaching simple cooking classes at a grocery store in Albany, trying to help busy folks get dinner on the table in under half an hour. That down-to-earth vibe got her noticed by a local CBS station. They offered her a tiny cooking segment called 30-Minute Meals. It was meant to be small, but it exploded. The Food Network called, publishers called, a daytime show followed. And suddenly, this woman with no formal anything, as she once told the New York Times in 2005, was everywhere. But not everyone was clapping. Some critics said she was a fraud. Even Martha Stewart publicly dismissed her, saying she wasn't good enough to be taken seriously in the culinary world. That cut deep. But as her fame grew, so did the scrutiny. And one commercial, in particular, would fan the flames even more. Not because of the food, but because of what she was wearing. Rachael Rays Duncan disaster. You might think Rachael Ray's biggest business move would be something in the kitchen. After all, her name's slapped on everything, from cheese graters to Dutch ovens. But not every commercial deal went down smoothly. One of her most unexpected controversies came from a partnership with none other than Duncan in the early 2000s. At first glance, a coffee commercial doesn't sound like a big deal, but this one blew up for all the wrong reasons. In a 2008 ad, Rachael wore a scarf that many viewers said looked way too much like a keffiyeh, a traditional Middle Eastern headscarf. To some, especially in the heated political climate of the time, that image triggered harsh backlash. Critics argued it carried offensive and unfair associations with terrorism and extremism. The Los Angeles Times even ran stories about how this seemingly innocent fashion choice spiraled into a cultural misunderstanding that nobody saw coming. Then came the heavy hitters. Anthony Bourdain, a fellow celebrity chef, and someone who was never shy about calling out what he didn't like, didn't hold back. He slammed Rachael's deal with Duncan, calling it evil, and compared it to peddling crack to kids. He was pointing to the fact that Duncan's menu wasn't exactly health food, packed with sugary drinks and processed snacks, something that felt deeply at odds with Ray's wholesome kitchen image. And if that wasn't enough, many food lovers also took issue with Rachael's take on traditional dishes, accusing her of missing the mark by turning classics like pozole into watered-down versions that felt inauthentic and disrespectful. So, just when you thought it couldn't get worse for Rachael's public image, well, there's more to the story. The pozole incident. Rachael Ray became a household name by bringing easy, homey cooking to millions. But one of her most unforgettable TV moments wasn't exactly a win. It turned into a full-on controversy. It all started with a simple recipe: red pozole. What should have been a celebration of a classic Mexican stew ended up leaving a really bad taste in the mouths of many viewers, especially within the Hispanic community. On her show, Rachael's take on pozole quickly went viral, but not for the reasons she'd hoped. People were shocked by how far her version strayed from the traditional dish. For those who grew up eating authentic pozole, it felt like an insult. mothers from the Hispanic community took to social media, especially on YouTube, where a group called Mama posted reaction videos. These women shook their heads in disbelief, some calling the dish disgusting, others even comparing it to dog food. It got so intense that clips of their reactions spread on Instagram, sparking even more fierce criticism. The backlash wasn't just playful teasing, it got downright harsh. The Daily Mail reported someone even called Rachel's pozole a hate crime, a term no chef ever wants associated with their food. For Rachael, who had always tried to keep things light and fun, this was a wake-up call that sometimes her shortcuts didn't land the way she intended. Rachael Ray's pet food dream turns into a legal nightmare. Rachael Ray has always been about connecting with everyday people and even their pets. Back in 2008, she took a bold step outside the kitchen and partnered with Ainsworth Pet Nutrition to launch Nutrish, a line of natural pet food. Ray was so confident in the quality that she famously said she would eat the dog food herself if she had to prove just how good it was. That claim helped Nutrish take off quickly, becoming a favorite for pet owners who wanted wholesome options for their furry friends. But what started as a promising business soon hit a massive roadblock. In 2018, a New York dog owner named Mark Eath Parks filed a $5 million lawsuit against Rachael Ray Nutrish, accusing the brand of misleading customers. The lawsuit alleged that the super premium dog food contained trace amounts of glyphosate, a herbicide nobody wants in their pet's food. This was a blow to Ray's image, especially since the brand had been marketed as all-natural and pure. The situation got even messier after the J.M. Smucker Company bought Ainsworth Pet Nutrition in 2018. Bobby Modi, Smucker's vice president of pet products, told The Blast they were strongly standing behind the quality of Nutrish and intended to aggressively fight these claims. After years of legal back and forth, the lawsuit was dismissed in 2021. But the damage to Rachel's reputation had already been done. If you think this was the lowest point, hang tight, because things weren't over yet. The shocking fallout of Rachael Ray's crew. One of the darkest chapters in her story came during the COVID-19 pandemic, a time that changed so much for all of us. But for Rachael Ray, the lockdown in March 2020 wasn't just about staying safe at home. It became the spark for one of the biggest controversies she ever faced, and it hit painfully close to home. When the virus spread rapidly, Rachael announced that the rest of that season's episodes of The Rachael Ray Show would be filmed remotely, right from her home in upstate New York. Sounds like a smart move to protect everyone, right? But here's the problem. This change meant that more than 20 of her longtime crew members, people like camera operators, audio technicians, and other behind-the-scenes pros, were suddenly out of work. And not just temporarily, they lost pay for a big chunk of the season. News of the dispute quickly made headlines. Fans and crew alike were shocked to learn that so many skilled workers who helped bring the show to life were left hanging in the middle of a crisis. The story painted a grim picture. People who depended on this job to pay rent and support their families suddenly found themselves without income. It wasn't just about a TV show, it was about real people facing real hardships. Rachael Ray quickly took to her Instagram story to respond, calling the allegations disturbing. She said she and CBS were discussing solutions to compensate those affected. She promised that healthcare contributions would continue and emphasized how much she cared about her team, calling them family. But despite her words, the crew was told by November 2020 they wouldn't be coming back to the Manhattan studios for the rest of the season. That meant losing pay for roughly 2/3 of the schedule. It was a gut punch to many who had supported her for years, and for the crew, it felt like a betrayal. But the story doesn't end there. The end of show. In May 2023, after 17 successful seasons and nearly 3,000 episodes since its 2006 debut, Rachael Ray brought her iconic daytime show to a close. The decision, which she described as a personal turning point, came after decades of shaping the genre with her signature mix of culinary tips, celebrity interviews, and lifestyle segments. Ray noted in her farewell announcement that she was ready for the next exciting chapter, signaling a thoughtful and intentional exit rather than a fade from public view. The show had not only earned her multiple daytime Emmys, but also positioned her as a household name, known for making cooking feel accessible, joyful, and real. Instead of stepping back, Ray used the show's end as a launchpad for reinvention. She co-founded Free Food Studios alongside trusted collaborators Brian Flanagan, Anthony Amoya, and Sean Lee. The company was conceived to give Ray more control over her content and expand beyond the constraints of traditional TV. With Free Food Studios, she aimed to produce a wide range of culinary programming designed for streaming platforms, cable networks, and social media. The move aligned with shifting viewer habits and allowed Ray to blend storytelling with instructional content in new, dynamic formats tailored to modern audiences. The strategy has already proved its worth. In early 2025, several projects under the Free Food Studios banner were unleashed by Ray and her team, including The Chef's Garden on FYI, which covers regenerative farming practices and seasonal produce. Global Soul Kitchen and Meals in Minutes were renewed for additional seasons in the same year, which reinforced the profitability of her new media venture. These shows embody a departure not only in content, but also in spirit. Each series is firmly anchored within Ray's passion for global food culture, sustainable cooking, and storytelling that transcends recipes. Now, disengaged from daytime television, she has only gotten more accountable and visible. Ray is ceaseless in between producing her content, transitioning from Italy to the US, and creating her podcast. The journey of Ray has seen her move from a TV host to a multimedia producer and mentor, demonstrating a shrewd understanding of the media landscape. Her resilience is aptly summed up by her go-to phrase, "If you're not dead, you go to work." The cancellation of The Rachael Ray Show thus did not signify an end to her career, but rather catalyzed a much wider second act. While her career soared in fresh directions, a shadow of doubt crept in. Recurring health worries. In September 2024, something unexpected happened that sent a ripple of worry through Rachael Ray's fanbase. A promotional video meant to capture her usual charm, this time set against the breathtaking backdrop of Tuscany, ended up raising questions that no one was quite prepared for. The video featured Rachael telling a funny story about nearly making Tony Bennett slip on her polished floors. It was classic G, lighthearted, warm, and a little goofy. But what caught everyone's attention wasn't the joke itself, it was the way she spoke. Viewers noticed her speech was slower, her words slightly slurred, and the sparkle in her usual quick wit seemed just a bit dimmed. The reaction online was immediate and intense. Fans who had always admired her energy and bright personality began sharing their concerns in comment sections and forums, asking if she might be dealing with something serious behind the scenes. Could this be a sign of neurological problems? Was she struggling with a health issue she hadn't shared? People were desperate for answers, but none came. Rachael didn't address the speculation at all. Instead, she kept posting the kind of upbeat cooking videos and kitchen stories that had made her famous in the first place. Her silence, however, only deepened the mystery. For someone so famously candid, so open about her life's ups and downs, this refusal to engage with her audience's worries felt unusual. When media outlets pressed for a comment, her spokesperson's terse "no comment" left fans hanging, fueling even more uncertainty. People were left wondering, what was really going on with Rachael Ray? Was there something she wasn't telling us? The questions didn't fade. Fast forward to Mother's Day in May 2025, and the concerns resurfaced. A new video Ray shared, a sentimental message meant to celebrate moms everywhere, again showed that same slower speech pattern that had caught so much attention before. Social media lit up once more with debates. Some viewers rushed to defend her, saying maybe she was just tired, or the years were catching up with her, or she simply had an off day. But others weren't so sure and called for transparency, demanding that she clarify what was happening. The truth was still hidden beneath layers of speculation. What really stood out during all this wasn't just the curiosity, it was the way her audience's feelings shifted. People who had stuck with Rachael through years of success, controversies, and personal struggles began to feel a strong sense of protectiveness. She wasn't just a TV personality or a celebrity chef anymore. She was someone who had weathered storms both publicly and privately. Her choice to keep quiet only increased both the empathy and the worry from those who cared about her. And through it all, Rachael remained visible. She kept working, creating, and pushing forward with the same determination that had always defined her career. Yet, behind the scenes, unanswered questions lingered quietly, casting a shadow that no recipe or smile could fully erase. This silence, this struggle that no one openly talks about, what does it mean for Rachael's future? And how will it shape the next chapter of her story? Seeking solace in podcasting. When you think of Rachael Ray, most people remember her as the energetic, upbeat chef who brightened daytime TV with her quick tips and sunny personality. But behind that cheerful smile, a quieter, more reflective side of Rachael has been emerging, one that many never saw coming. In October 2024, she surprised fans by launching a podcast called I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. It was a bold move, signaling a new phase in her career, but also a new way of sharing her story. The title alone sets a tone that's very different from what you'd expect from a celebrity chef known for fast, fun cooking. It comes from Ray's own philosophy about pushing through life's challenges, even when you're tired, bruised, or just plain worn out. The podcast wasn't about recipes or kitchen hacks. It was a space for honesty, vulnerability, and real talk about resilience and reinvention. In the very first episode, Rachael opened up about some of the struggles she'd been facing lately, including physical injuries that slowed her down and deeply personal losses that weighed heavy on her heart. One of the most revealing moments came when Ray admitted she never looks up her name online anymore because she doesn't want to get sucked into the negativity. But she remembers the worst of it, the era when there was an entire I Hate Rachael Ray website. The kind of criticism she faced was intense, relentless, and sometimes downright cruel. Honestly, the list of controversies she's been tangled up in is so long, it's almost hard to believe one person could weather all that and still be standing. Yet, here she was, laying it all bare in this new, stripped-down format. The early episodes were a mix of heart-to-hearts, with celebrity friends and close confidants. They talked about everything from creative fulfillment to aging gracefully and dealing with grief. Rachael's warmth and natural curiosity shone through the microphone just like it did on TV, but with an added layer of depth. She wasn't just entertaining anymore, she was connecting. In a February 2025 interview with People magazine, she explained how the podcast gave her the freedom to explore topics that a daytime cooking show never could. I like introducing people and being able to expand and expound on what I wish I had time to do in formats I couldn't do it in before, she said. It was clear that this new outlet meant more to her than just another media gig. It was a lifeline. But then, things hit a strange lull. After releasing 8 episodes between October and December, the podcast unexpectedly went quiet. Fans wondered what was going on. It turned out there were some behind-the-scenes struggles, post-holiday slowdowns, production delays, and frustrations with the team responsible for getting the episodes out. Rachael didn't mince words about it either. In February 2025, she told an interviewer bluntly, "I'm pissed at how long it takes them to put it up." Classic Rachael, always straightforward, never sugarcoating. Despite the bumps, she didn't give up. At the South Beach Wine and Food Festival in early 2025, she reassured fans that the podcast was here to stay. She talked about how important it had become as a creative outlet and how much she valued this new kind of connection with listeners. The show might not have the polish or frequency some expect from a big-name star, but what it lacks in flash, it makes up for in honesty. This wasn't just about sharing recipes anymore, it was about sharing her life, raw, imperfect, and very much still unfolding. What Rachael Ray is doing fits into a bigger trend among famous TV personalities moving into podcasting. In today's crowded, fragmented media world, authenticity is gold. Podcasts let stars speak in their own voices, with fewer filters, fewer scripts, and more room for real emotion. Celebrities like Dax Shepard, with Armchair Expert, and Gwyneth Paltrow with the Goop podcast have shown how powerful this format can be. For Rachael, stepping into podcasting wasn't just about changing platforms, it was about embracing vulnerability and finding a new way to stay relevant and true to herself in a shifting landscape. But even as she finds solace in this new medium, the road ahead isn't easy. The struggles that pushed her to reinvent herself through I'll Sleep When I'm Dead are far from over. There's more to her story: tough moments, unexpected setbacks, and the kind of hard truths that make you root for someone even when things aren't perfect. Rachael Ray's bold comeback. It's easy to think of Rachael Ray as the cheerful queen of quick meals, the woman who turned 30-minute meals into a household phrase. But in June of 2024, she surprised everyone by taking a very different turn. She wasn't in a studio kitchen anymore. She wasn't surrounded by bright lights or a clapping audience. Instead, she was back in Italy, specific Tuscany, the same dreamy countryside where she and her husband, John Cusimano, had tied the knot years earlier. This new chapter came in the form of a show called Rachael Ray in Tuscany. It wasn't flashy or high energy. It didn't try to be. It was slower, softer, and deeply personal. Each of the 14 episodes invited viewers into Rachael's private Italian villa, where she cooked rustic dishes like squid ink pasta and pollo al matone. Not for ratings, but seemingly out of love. She shared stories, local ingredients, and quiet reflections in a setting that looked more like a postcard than a set. The show aired on FYI, but it felt more like a love letter than a production. It was a far cry from her daytime TV days, but it struck a different kind of chord. Behind the camera, though, Rachael was doing even more than just making pasta. Around the same time, she launched Free Food Studios, a creative production company that might be her most ambitious move yet. She teamed up with 3 longtime collaborators, Brian Flanagan, Anthony Amoya, and Sean Lee, to build something fresh from the ground up. This wasn't just about making cooking shows, it was about creating a new kind of food media, where the stories mattered as much as the meals. With this studio, Rachael wasn't just a host anymore. She became the boss, the visionary, the mentor. What made Free Food Studios special wasn't just the content, but the shift it represented. By 2025, they were already rolling out original series like Meals in Minutes and Global Soul Kitchen. They even launched The Chef's Garden, a thoughtful 10-episode show with Farmer Lee Jones that explored regenerative agriculture. Yes, the kind of farming that's good for the planet and your plate. Rachael also used the platform to spotlight new talent. She backed shows like Instant Italian, hosted by Anna Frances Gass, and Jake Makes It Easy, with TikTok-friendly chef Jake Cohen. These weren't just spin-offs. They were seeds, projects that could grow without needing Rachael to be front and center. She was evolving, and fast, but not just because she had to. She seemed to genuinely understand where food entertainment was headed. These days, people want more than just a recipe. They want emotion, culture, a story they can feel. Rachael put it perfectly in an interview from early 2024. People don't just want to learn how to cook. They want to feel something while they're watching. So why then, if Rachael was creating, mentoring, and staying ahead of the curve, did it still feel like something was off? She was everywhere, and yet not quite present in the same way. The Tuscany show was beautiful, but some fans noticed her energy felt different. Her public appearances were fewer, her speech a bit more strained. And though she kept pushing forward creatively, quietly, something seemed to be shifting beneath the surface. What started as a career reinvention was beginning to feel like a distraction from something deeper. Thanks for watching. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and join the conversation. And if you're ready for more, click on the next video on your screen now. There's plenty more to explore.